Heavy bass music came out of the walls of the club. Daniel and his friends were partying once again. These boys were doing all manner of things: smoking, drinking, drugs, sex, you name it all. Daniel was 22 years old. His parents were extremely rich, so he didn't bother to go to school or get a job. Everything he wanted, he got. During daytime, he would eat junk food, play video games, and waste his time. At night, it was sex, parties, and wild nights. One night, Daniel was very high and drunk. It was the highest he had ever been in his life, but it was too much for his body, so he collapsed on the floor. His friends took him up. He woke up the next day and he was fine. As days passed, Daniel wasn't that much of himself anymore. Sometimes he'll feel this harsh pain in his chest and stomach. Other times he'll feel like he couldn't breathe. Anytime he tried to smoke or drink, even a little, his head would hurt very bad, as if his head was about to explode. So Daniel went to the hospital to complain. They did their test and found out he was terribly ill. His heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, and even some parts of his brain were greatly damaged, and if he continued his bad lifestyle, he would die. Daniel left the hospital in an awful shock. He couldn't believe his ears. Each day that passed, his health was getting worse, so he was admitted to the hospital. About 1 week later, Daniel was terribly sick. He found it difficult to even walk. The damage was so severe, they had to do surgery. The chances of surviving was almost zero. So Daniel called his parents and family members to see if he could see them one more time. His parents lived in a faraway country and couldn't make it. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. At 22, he was about to lose his life because of stupid stuff. He regretted everything. None of his friends even bothered to visit him, call him, or even tried to contact him. They all abandoned him, and yet it was his money they were always spending. Daniel wept bitterly. So the day of the surgery came. The surgeon had to come from another country because he was the best of the best, but his chances of surviving were still almost zero. They did his surgery. It went on for about 15 hours straight. The operation was finally over, but it wasn't effective and there was nothing else they could do. Daniel only had a few more hours to live. A few hours to his death, Daniel closed his eyes and entered into a deep sleep. It was more like a replay of his short life. Everything flashed before his eyes. The day he was born, his first birthday, his first car at 16, his parents, his siblings, the drugs, the weed, the bottles, the sex, the wasted money, the junk food. It was here the doctor was trying to revive him, and there was a brief silence. All of a sudden, Daniel found himself in a room. Is this heaven? Where am I? He looked forward and saw a mirror, saw his reflection and felt embarrassed. Am I dead? Then he saw himself holding a rusted key, and there was the door in front of him. He tried opening the door, but the key was worn out. Daniel's reflection talked from the mirror. How do you love to correct your mistakes? Daniel was puzzled by his reflection. That would be great, but it's too late now. What if it isn't? What do you mean? My key is worn out, I can't open the door. Looks to your right. Daniel looked over to his right and saw a key on the table. He looked in disbelief and said, I don't deserve it. Of course you don't. But now you know its value. Now grab that key and go do something with it. So Daniel grabbed the key and opened the door. Then he woke up from his strange dream. The doctors and nurses were surprised. He's alive! He's alive! Over the next few days, Daniel got better and better. He was responding very well to treatments. A few days later, his parents arrived. Daniel was very happy to see them. About a month later, Daniel was discharged from the hospital. He was completely fine. He never went back to his old ways again. He even threw his phone into a lake because he didn't want to have anything to do with his contacts. He moved to another country. Instead of spending his money on stupid things, he donated to charities, invested in companies, and even donated to non-profit organizations. Eventually, he found an ideal partner. They got married and lived happily ever after. You don't usually know the value of something you have until it's gone. See, don't wait for what you have to go before you know its value. Unlike Daniel, you might not get a second chance. So whatever it is, if it's your parents, your life, your wealth, your health, anything, you don't need to wait for it to go before you start to wish you had done something. Now you have it, do something about it.